Your physical environment also plays a role. Have you ever noticed how a cluttered, chaotic space makes it harder to think clearly? When your surroundings are messy and disorganized, your mind often feels the same way. Creating a peaceful environment, whether it's your home, your workspace, or even just a small corner where you can breathe and reset, makes a difference. Light a candle, play calming music, bring nature inside with plants or fresh air, whatever helps you cultivate an atmosphere of peace. And most importantly, peace begins within. You can be in the most serene environment, but if your mind is filled with worry, anger, or stress, you won't feel at peace. That's why it's essential to practice inner stillness. Whether it's through meditation, deep breathing, journaling, or simply taking a few moments to pause, the more you practice quieting your mind, the more naturally peace will flow into your life. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you create. It's something you protect. And when you surround yourself with peace, you'll find that handling negative emotions becomes so much easier. Instead of reacting to chaos, you respond with clarity. Instead of being overwhelmed by negativity, you remain steady. Instead of being pulled into stress, you remain anchored in calm. So choose peace. Surround yourself with it, nurture it, and watch how it transforms not just your emotions, but your entire life. Life is not just about what happens to you, it's about how you see it, how you interpret it, and how you respond to it. Two people can go through the same situation and have completely different experiences, not because of the circumstances, but because of their perspective. Think about it. Have you ever had a day where everything seemed to go wrong? Maybe you woke up late, spilled your coffee, got stuck in traffic, and then had to deal with a difficult person at work. By the end of the day, you were exhausted and frustrated, convinced that it was just one of those days. But what if you had seen it differently? What if instead of focusing on the setbacks, you looked for the hidden opportunities? Maybe waking up late meant you avoided an accident on the road. Maybe spilling your coffee was a reminder to slow down. Maybe that difficult person at work was teaching you patience and self-control. You see, perspective changes everything. When we're faced with negative emotions, anger, frustration, sadness, disappointment, it's easy to feel like a victim of our circumstances. Why is this happening to me? Why does life have to be so hard? But what if we change the question? Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of saying, this is so unfair, say, this is an opportunity to grow. The truth is, every challenge carries a lesson. Every hardship has the potential to make you stronger, wiser, and more resilient if you choose to see it that way. Some of the most successful, fulfilled people in the world didn't get embroiled because life was easy for them. They got there because they chose to see obstacles as stepping stones, not roadblocks. They didn't let difficulties define them, they let difficulties refine them. Take, for example, a setback in your career. You didn't get the promotion you were hoping for, or maybe you lost a job that you loved. The immediate reaction might be frustration, disappointment, or even self-doubt. But if you shift your perspective, you can start to see that maybe this is redirecting you to something better. Maybe this is pushing you to develop new skills, to step outside of your comfort zone, or to pursue a path that's more aligned with your purpose. What seemed like a setback could actually be a setup for something greater. The same applies to relationships. Maybe someone hurt you, betrayed your trust, or let you down. It's easy to dwell on the pain, to hold on to resentment, and to let that experience harden your heart. But what if you shifted your perspective? Instead of seeing it as something that broke you, see it as something that built you. Maybe it taught you to set healthier boundaries. Maybe it made you stronger, more self-aware, more compassionate. Instead of focusing on the hurt, focus on how you grew from it. Shifting your perspective doesn't mean denying reality or pretending that pain doesn't exist. It simply means choosing to see beyond the immediate emotion. It means looking for the silver lining, the lesson, the hidden blessing. It means understanding that life isn't happening. Every storm you face has the potential to water the seeds of your growth. Every challenge is shaping you into a stronger, wiser version of yourself. When you start seeing life this way, you stop feeling like a victim and start feeling empowered. You realize that you are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You have the power to shape your experience by shifting your perspective. So the next time you're faced with frustration, disappointment, or negativity, take a step back. Ask yourself, how can I see this differently? What is this teaching me? How can I use this to become better? Because when you change the way you see things, the things you see begin to change. There are moments in life when emotions feel overwhelming, when the weight of anger, sadness, fear, or frustration seems too heavy to carry. In those moments, it's easy to feel alone, like you're battling everything by yourself. But the truth is, you were never meant to handle life's challenges on your own. There's something greater, something bigger than you, bigger than your problems, bigger than your emotions. When you connect with that greater force, you find strength, peace, and clarity beyond what you thought was possible. What does it mean to connect with something greater? It means recognizing that you are part of something bigger than your struggles. It means stepping out of the smallness of your problems and tapping into a deeper wisdom, a higher power, an infinite source of strength. Some people find this connection through faith, through prayer, through meditation. Others find it in nature, in stillness, in moments of deep gratitude. However you choose to connect, the key is to remind yourself that you are not alone. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt how vast the universe is? Have you ever stood by the ocean and felt how small your worries seem compared to the endless waves? There is something humbling and freeing about recognizing that your problems, no matter how big they seem right now, are just a tiny part of a much greater picture. When you zoom out, when you see life from a broader perspective, you realize that what feels like the end of the world today is just a passing moment in the grand scheme of things. When you connect with something greater, you tap into a source of peace that doesn't come from your circumstances, it comes from within. It's the kind of peace that allows you to remain calm in the storm, to trust even when things don't make sense, to know that no matter what happens, you are supported and guided. Think about the moments in life when you felt truly at peace. Maybe it was during a quiet walk in nature where you felt completely present without worries pulling at your mind. Maybe it was in prayer or meditation when you surrendered your fears and felt an unexplainable sense of calm. Maybe it was when you helped someone else, when you took the focus off yourself and poured love into another person's life. Those moments remind you that you are not alone, that there is something beyond just the day-to-day struggles. When you're facing negative emotions, one of the most powerful things you can do is step outside of yourself and connect with something greater. Instead of being trapped in the cycle of overthinking and reacting, pause and seek that connection. Pray, meditate, take a deep breath and surrender the things you cannot control. Step into nature, feel the stillness, and let it remind you of the vastness of life. Serve others, because when you give, you step into a flow of love and kindness that shifts your focus from problems to purpose. The world will always have moments of chaos. Life will always have challenges. But when you are connected to something greater, you are no longer shaken by every storm. You realize that your emotions are just passing waves, not the entire ocean. You recognize that no matter what happens, you are deeply supported, deeply loved, and deeply connected to a power far beyond yourself. So when life feels overwhelming, when emotions feel too heavy to handle, remember to lift your eyes beyond the problem. Seek that connection. Anchor yourself in something deeper. Because when you do, you will find strength that is not your own, peace that is unshakable, and grace that carries you through even the toughest of times. Life will always bring challenges. There will be moments of frustration, disappointment, and pain. But the true test of our strength is not in avoiding negative emotions, it's in learning how to handle them with grace. When you stop identifying with your emotions, you realize they don't define you. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself the power to choose your response. When you channel your energy, you turn pain into progress. When you surround yourself with peace, you create an environment that nurtures your growth. When you shift your perspective, you turn obstacles into opportunities. And when you connect with something greater, you find a strength that goes beyond your own. You were never meant to be controlled by emotions, you were meant to rise above them. You have the power to choose how you respond, how you grow, and how you move forward. So when life tests you, when emotions feel overwhelming, remember that you are not powerless. You have the tools to navigate every challenge with wisdom, patience, and grace. And as you walk this journey, don't just practice these principles for yourself, be an example for others. Be the person who brings peace into a room. Be the one who responds with wisdom rather than anger, who sees opportunities where others see obstacles. When you live with this kind of grace, you don't just transform your own life, you inspire those around you to do the same. So step forward with confidence. No matter what comes your way, you are equipped to handle it with strength, wisdom, and grace. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a moment and remind you life is a journey. And on this journey, we all face moments of doubt, frustration, and even anger. But just because a storm comes doesn't mean we have to let it shake us. You see, negative emotions are part of life, but they don't have to control your life. I want to encourage you today, there's a way to handle those emotions with grace. When frustration knocks, don't open the door. When anger rises, don't give it a seat at your table. You are stronger than your emotions. You are greater than your feelings. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. No, it's about learning to rise above. When we learn to master our emotions instead of letting them master us, that's when we truly step into the fullness of who we're meant to be. So how do we do this? How do we handle negative emotions with grace? Let me give you a few powerful keys today. One of the biggest mistakes we make when dealing with negative emotions is that we start to identify with them. We take a passing feeling and turn it into a part of who we are. Have you ever heard someone say, I'm just an angry person, or I am always anxious? Maybe you've even said it yourself, but I want to tell you today, you are not your emotions. You are not your anger, your sadness, or your frustration. Those are just temporary states of mind, not your identity. Think about it like this. Imagine you're sitting outside on a bright, sunny day watching the clouds pass by. Some clouds are white and soft, while others are dark and heavy. But no matter how big or stormy those clouds get, they don't change the sky. The sky remains untouched, unaffected. In the same way, your emotions are like those clouds, passing experiences that come and go. But the real you, your true self, is like the sky vast open and unshaken. The problem arises when we start holding on to these emotions, giving them a permanent place in our lives. Instead of saying, I feel frustrated right now, we say, I am frustrated. Instead of thinking, I'm experiencing sadness, we declare I am sad. Do you see the difference? One acknowledges that the emotion is temporary, while the other makes it part of our identity. Now, I'm not saying to suppress or ignore what you feel. That's not handling emotions with grace. That's just pushing them down, and sooner or later, they'll come back stronger. What I am saying is, don't let these emotions define you. Feel them, acknowledge them, but don't give them control over your life. Let's say you're having a bad day. Everything seems to be going wrong. Maybe someone said something hurtful or things didn't go as planned. It's easy to get caught up in those emotions and start believing this is just who I am now. My life is always like this, but that's just a story your mind is telling you. The truth is, this is just a moment. It will pass. You have gone through tough days before and you've come out stronger. The next time a negative emotion arises, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is not who I am. This is just a feeling, and feelings are like waves, they raise and fall, but they never stay forever. When you start seeing emotions this way, you take away their power to control you. You move from being a prisoner of your emotions to being the master of them. So today I challenge you, don't let emotions stick to you like a label. Don't let a temporary storm make you forget the vastness of your sky. You are bigger than your emotions, stronger than your feelings, and more powerful than you realize. Let the emotions come, but let them pass. You don't have to hold on to them. You don't have to become them. Handle them with grace and watch how much lighter your life becomes. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? Maybe it was a harsh word, a sarcastic comment, or a defensive response that only made things worse. We've all been there. When emotions run high, it's easy to react impulsively without thinking. But if we learn to pause, even for just a few seconds, we can change the entire course of a situation. Think about a time when someone upset you, maybe a coworker said something that felt disrespectful, or a family member criticized you unfairly. At that moment, your natural reaction might have been to lash out, to defend yourself, or to say something equally hurtful. But what happens when we react immediately? We usually escalate the situation. What could have been a small misunderstanding turns into a full-blown argument. What could have been a moment of frustration turns into resentment that lasts for days, weeks, or even years. Now imagine if, in that same moment, you had taken a deep breath instead. If you had just paused before reacting, you would have given yourself a chance to think. You would have had a moment to decide, is this worth my energy? Is my response going to help or hurt the situation? Am I reacting from a place of anger, or am I responding from a place of wisdom? That short pause, just a few seconds, can be the difference between peace and regret. It gives you control over the situation instead of letting the situation control you. Pausing before you react doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or ignoring the issue. It simply means creating space between the emotion and the response. When someone says something that triggers you, instead of immediately speaking or acting, take a moment. Breathe. Let the first wave of emotion settle. This doesn't take long, just a few seconds, but it can change everything. Think about a boiling pot of water. When it's at full boil, steam is rising, bubbles are bursting, it's unstable and chaotic. If you put a lid on it too tightly, it might boil over. But if you turn down the heat just a little, the water settles. The same thing happens with emotions. When we pause, we turn down the heat. We give ourselves time to respond in a way that brings peace rather than chaos. There is so much power in a pause. When you pause, you allow wisdom to step in. You give yourself a chance to see the bigger picture. You avoid saying something you can't take back. You prevent unnecessary conflict. We often think strength is in reacting quickly, but true strength is in responding wisely. A moment of patience and anger can save you from a lifetime of regret. The next time you feel that surge of frustration, that urge to react instantly, pause. Take a breath. Think. Ask yourself, how do I want to handle this? That small decision can transform your relationships, your peace of mind, and your entire life. Have you ever noticed how much energy negative emotions carry? When you're angry, you can feel the heat rising in your body. Your heart beats faster, your hands tense up, your mind starts racing. When you're anxious, it's like a restless force inside you, making you pace, fidget, overthink. Sadness, too, has weight. It can feel like a heavy cloud pressing down on you, draining your motivation. But here's the thing. Emotions, whether positive or negative, are energy. And energy is not meant to be suppressed, it's meant to be directed. The problem isn't the emotion itself. The problem is what we do with it. Many people let their emotions control them. When they're angry, they lash out. When they're anxious, they freeze. When they're sad, they shut down. But what if instead of letting emotions dictate your actions, you took charge of that energy and channeled it into something meaningful? Think about a fire. Fire, if left uncontrolled, can destroy. It can burn down a home, a forest, a lifetime of hard work. But that same fire, when contained and directed, can provide warmth, light, and power. Your emotions work the same way. If you let them run wild, they can consume you. But if you channel them correctly, they can be transformed into something productive, even beautiful. Take anger, for example. Instead of letting it lead you to an argument, use that fire to fuel your growth. Go for a run, lift some weights, clean your space, dive into a creative project. Let that surge of energy push you towards something positive. Some of the most successful people in the world have taken their anger, their frustration with a situation, a setback, or an injustice, and used it as fuel to build something incredible. Anxiety, too, can be channeled. Instead of sitting in worry, use that restless energy to prepare, to plan, to take action. If you're worried about failing, instead of overthinking, start practicing. If you're stressed about an upcoming event, put that energy into making sure you're ready. Anxiety, when directed, becomes motivation. Even sadness can be turned into something meaningful. Some of the greatest works of art, music, and literature were born out of sorrow. When life feels heavy, channel that emotion into self-expression, into journaling, into creating something that allows you to release what you're feeling in a healthy way. The key is not to fight your emotions or push them down. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They just build up until they explode in unhealthy ways. The goal is to move that energy in a way that serves you rather than harms you. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by emotion, ask yourself, where can I direct this energy? How can I use this feeling to create something good? Instead of letting emotions control you, take control of them. You turn pain into power, restlessness into progress, and frustration into transformation. You have the ability to decide how your energy is used. Make the choice to channel it wisely and watch how it transforms not just your emotions, but your entire life. Peace is not something that just happens by chance. It's something we must cultivate, protect, and surround ourselves with intentionally. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and negativity, peace is a choice we make every single day. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt tension in the air? No one had to say anything, but you could feel the uneasiness. Or maybe you've been around certain people who, after just a few minutes of conversation, leave you feeling drained, anxious, or frustrated. The truth is, our environment has a powerful impact on our emotional and mental state. If you want to handle negative emotions with grace, one of the best things you can do is surround yourself with peace. Now, peace isn't just about silence or the absence of conflict. True peace is deeper than that. It's a state of being that allows you to remain calm, grounded, and steady even when things around you are chaotic. It's about choosing what you allow into your life, what you give your attention to, and what kind of energy you surround yourself with. Start by looking at the people in your life. Are they constantly negative? Do they bring drama, gossip, and stress into your space? If so, you have to ask yourself, are these the kind of people who bring peace into my life, or are they stealing it from me? Now, I'm not saying to cut people off completely, but you can set boundaries. You can choose to limit your time with those who drain you and invest more in relationships that uplift and encourage you. Then look at what you consume daily. The news, social media, the conversations you engage in, are they filling your mind with peace, or are they filling you with fear, anger, and stress? Many times people don't realize that their anxiety and frustration are a direct result of what they're feeding their minds every day. If you start your morning scrolling through negativity, it's no surprise that you feel overwhelmed before the day even begins. Instead, be intentional about what you allow in. Read something inspiring, listen to music that calms your spirit, or spend a few moments in stillness before you step into your day.